At this time, I'd like to call the Water and Sewer Department Committee meeting together to discuss the purchase of a new SCAG mower. Ricky, hey, Ricky, do you mind to explain the purpose of this purchase and what we're replacing, please?
I will. We have a snapper zero turn. It's probably 12 years old. We're looking at replacing it. I called around and got some prices. Got three there in front of you. One was at McMinnville Lawn and Garden. That price was $79.99. And then we had K2. I think they were out of Lebanon. They were at $8,800. And then we had another one, Twin Lakes, was $9,400, I think. And we need to probably move on from that snapper. We've had quite a bit of problems with it.
Okay.
And so I think it's kind of served its life for what it seems like we're doing something every month to it to repair it. It's actually, all of those prices are, I think, lower than the state bid on that same machine. So don't kind of understand that. But
All right, that's great. And I see that in the synopsis here that it's in the budget, so we don't, it's
It
not
is.
any new money. So it's something that we counted on doing.
yes, it's in the budget.
Okay, well, I would entertain a motion to approve this or any discussion necessary. We have a second. Thank you, Sally. So we have a motion by Rachel and a second by Sally. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nobody left. Thank you, sir.
And that is,
Motion passes.
that is in stock and he has been holding it for me. So
Okay, great. So you can
Okay.
get it, you can get it pretty
I
quick
can
then.
get it. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Ricky. I
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
it. I don't believe there's any other business with the Water and Sewer Committee. And at this time, we'll call this meeting adjourned.
I'd like to call the Safety Committee to order. We have 3 items to discuss. There are 2 on the agenda. The first is to discuss police vehicle purchase. Chief Mosley. Like to fill us in on this.
Hey, you have before your request from the police department to approve the purchase of 3 2024 police interceptor utility all-wheel drive police vehicles. This purchase will replace a few of the 10-year plus older vehicles that are due to be replaced. These vehicles are police package vehicles with all standard heavy-duty police upgrades. Also included in the price are the optional equipment specified to include driver's side spotlight, rear doors, inoperable remote keyless entry fob, and noise suppression bonds. The price per unit is $33,531 to a vehicle. 2 of the units will be paid for out of the general fund, and 1 of the units will be paid for out of the drug fund. This sales quote's off of the statewide contract.
Any questions for Chief Mosley regarding this request? All in favor? Aye. Second for the Safety Committee tonight is consideration of bids for motorcycle purchase.
You have before you request to purchase a police motorcycle for the police department. Requests for bids were advertised through media in the City of McMinnville website. 2 bids were received for a 2021 Harley Davidson FLHTP police motorcycle. The bid for Boswell's Harley Davidson was $25,800, and we received a bid from Bumpus Harley Davidson on Murfreesboro, and it was $23,752. Both bidders met the same specs and were identical units. We recommend accepting the low bid from Bumpus Harley Davidson on Murfreesboro in the amount of $23,752 for the purchase of the police motorcycle.
But I would like to ask a question
Mhm.
about that. So what are we going to do with a motorcycle in a town the size of McMinnville?
There's a lot of use for the motorcycle. It's good PR too, as well as, parades and working specialty events. And even, right in there's areas of where a patrol car unit might not be able to sit if we're having a traffic issue, where a a motorcycle can fit easier and sit and kind of be out of sight, but not be right in the middle of the road and see things that, where a car can't. We had one, it's probably been 30 years. We've had them before, and we just hadn't had them since then.
But they'd be used for funerals too, right?
Yes, they could be, they could be utilized in several different ways.
Thank you.
You want a motion?
Speaking of funerals, are you going to train the other guys, the people that do the safety unit on these or not?
PSU versus,
Yeah.
no, not on the
Okay.
motorcycle.
All right, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have a 3rd item that I'd like to bring to the Safety Committee's attention to decide how to move forward with this. We have a contract with our software communications vendor. That vendor has been purchased by a new company. We currently have a contract with the former company, and this new company is requiring an updated contract with them. The issue in terms of timeliness is that the 911 of Warren County is also moving forward with this contract. They've updated their contract about 2 months ago. And so on October 1st, they're planning to begin the data and software development. And so it's pretty crucial that we are in line with 911 for their communication. So there's I know a request that we move forward with that contract. Can you share with us how we can proceed with
I
this?
think that's a fair summary. There is an existing contract with the former owner of the software license, Emergent
Emergency.
Tech. That contract is in existence, and it's budgeted, approved for the board. This company, Central Park, acquired
Central
Emergent Tech.
Central Square.
Central Square
Mhm.
acquired Emergent Tech, and this contract is simply replacing the existing contract. It involves a few thousand more dollars, but it's a $46,000 annual cost, which is only a couple of thousand more than you were paying to Emergent Tech.
I think that's 1,000 more. Mhm. And there's more services with it. They're upgraded.
It is upgraded according to the contract.
Mhm.
And it is important, as the chairman said, that this department stay on track with 911. Because if we're in and 911 is out, or 911 is out and we're in, it has an impact on the contract and the obligations under the contract, including the cost of the contract. So I think good reason exists to fast forward the approval of the replacement contract.
Zach, is the fire department going to follow suit?
I don't know. Chief, does the fire department have the same software?
They're
that
not
you-
on
you
our
are?
system. Mm-mm.
No,
No. that's what I thought. Don't they need it?
it's not the same thing.
Well, I know that Chuck Haston was hoping that the fire department would get on board like the police department. Just saying.
I mean, that might be something we can do some research with
Mhm.
the fire department.
What does this
Chief Rayfield.
software actually do?
It's an information or data sharing platform.
I can let him.
This does all of our records management. This is your reports that you have. It will actually have 8 tickets that's in it, so it will cover our citations that's involved. It covers our Titans, which is our Tennessee crash investigation platform. It also has our mobile data, which allows us to communicate via the computer through 911 for silent communication, updatable in real time. So as he was talking about, the lax time in this will cause a communication glitch of such. Our guys won't get real-time data. They'll have to refresh going down the road. So if they have a call right now, our current, through this provision, it actually updates as they type in, and it speaks to them and tells them the difference. That'll change, but everything we do, records management wise, runs through them, except for the tickets through courtware. Other than that, the whole thing's covered under one.
And it's just $1,000 more than what?
Yeah,
was last
it's
year.
basically the Zucker Pro years ago purchased Emergent Tech. And Zucker Pro was a different company. It is their Zucker product. It's a Pro Suite, basically our same thing. Things that we've had that's problematic through our existing one has been rectified through the Pro Suite. Makes the job a lot easier. Things that we do with the state, like Tivers and those things, it catches errors that that we might miss. It's a better product. Plus, it also does the e-citation inside the computer, which our current provider had said from the beginning they would, but they did not. It's done a real good job. Actually, they tried. It just, it wasn't good. But this one works good. We've got Livingston Police Department that actually uses it, and several others.
It's all in the same.
It's all one thing, all one company.
We need a motion to approve this purchase then. Okay. I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anything else to come before the safety committee?
Other than, Sally, you said that they were looking at 911, they were looking at putting the fire
It's the
department.
same thing, but Chuck was hoping, for whatever reason, that the fire department would also use this.
So that everybody has the same
Yes.
communication platform across the
Yes.
board, 911, the sheriff's department, EMS, Warren County Police, or McMinnville Police and Fire, so that everybody can communicate more easily, more effectively, instead of being on different channels and different communications platforms.
We might have the fire department look into it, see what the cost would be or have Nolan do it. Probably Nolan would be the better person. to do
And I
that.
might be speaking out of turn here, but in terms of the amount of need, with the police department, they have a significant amount of documentation issues in connectivity. I don't think the demand and the cost should be as much for the fire department to be able to
Yeah.
integrate. So
Well, we can find out and then see if it's worth it to us.
anything else to come before the committee? We stand adjourned.
Okay, it's 6:05 and we're going to now have the Streets and Sanitation Committee, and Katie Kalisis has some info.
This is in the plan, but I pull it out. Everyone, it's a wet evening out there. I'm a little bit of a drowned rat, so bear with me. This is the McMinnville Safe Streets to School Bike and Pedestrian Plan. It's the second of the 2 TDOT grants that we received for what's called multimodal planning and master plans. We talked about the rural transportation planning grant a couple weeks ago. This is the rural planning initiative grant, and it was a $25,000 grant. So I shared with you the map of the study areas just to help remind you the difference between the two, at least in the scope and where they were studied. We applied for what's called the Ruby Grant in response to goals and objectives in the 2018 comprehensive plan, as well as feedback from citizens that North Chancery Street acted as a real barrier for families and students crossing back and forth between neighborhoods and community facilities. So we knew there was a real community need, and based on those 2 pieces of information, we applied for a grant to study this area, and that's what this grant is, and that's what this plan is. The plan itself was formed through a steering committee of key stakeholders in our community, which are listed in the memo and in the plan itself. Representatives of TDOT, staff from 4 city departments, and our planning, transportation planners and engineers at CI, which is the consulting company that we worked with on it. This project had 2 campaigns for public engagement, where we reached out to the public for information on needs and preferences, and received a strong response of 325 responses from folks about what we should be looking at, and then and the recommendations, their preferences, and a strong response from parents specifically, because we sent it through the school system to encourage feedback. So ultimately, this plan is guided by the public. It was shaped by key stakeholders in our community and developed by the transportation engineer and transportation planners and engineers at KCI. And that's what we have brought for you for a review. Our goal we seek to take the plan to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen so that it can be accepted through resolution like the CTPG grant. Do you have any questions?
I participated. These types of studies are very helpful for us to be planning and improving the safety as well as the utility in the area. So thank you for all the hard work on this.
Any questions? Any other questions?
Does this, again, like the other one, doesn't commit us to anything beyond doing the study, is that right?
That's right. It's a roadmap. It's to guide future decisions and projects that come.
And
through
it's
this.
fully funded by the grant.
Yes, this 25,000, it had no match. So this plan was completely TDOT funded,
Okay.
which we're grateful for.
So I'll entertain a motion if there are any more questions or comments.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion.
I made a motion to accept.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Any other things that come before Streets and Sanitation? All right, we will adjourn.
Thank you all.
All right, it's 6:20. Call the Building and Grounds Committee meeting to order. And as you all know, we've been discussing some different options on the possibility of selling the blue building and the property that goes with it. And the latest idea we had from Mr. Pirtle is what's called a request for proposal, where you would submit your plan of what you're going to do with the property, and you would also submit what you'd be willing to pay for it. It seems to be a good idea. Everybody that I've talked to, a couple of developers and some citizens seem to think it's a really good idea. And I think it's a really good idea. Am I explaining that well enough, Tim? Do you have anything?
I would only add that I personally have been contacted by two parties who expressed a genuine interest in the development of the property. Two different visions, but nevertheless, end result being that the blue building perhaps could be placed back on the tax rolls and inure to the benefit of the citizens. I think after consulting with Nolan and David, our new community development director, I think that by consensus, we thought that request for proposals would be the best vehicle for those genuinely interested parties to submit to the city for its consideration their proposals or visions for the development of the property and the terms and conditions. And we recommend leaving it very generic, very wide open. So if, for example, an interested party wanted to make one of the terms and conditions of the proposal the removal of the property from the historic zoning district, for example, and just by way of example, leave the solicitation wide open and see what you get.
So this would be similar to what we do when we put out an ad for bids for equipment that we're buying or whatever. It would be advertised for 10 days. Is that correct?
It wouldn't be so much the regular competitive bidding process, but it is an alternative to a bidding process where people present different proposals for different ways to develop the property.
Right.
So I would leave it as generic as possible.
I like the concept of the idea. The only thing that I have a problem with is putting what they would be willing to pay for that thing, because that's going to tip their hand if we end up going back and actually wanting competitive bids at some point in time. How do we get?
The city, the board always has the right to reject any and all bids.
I understand, but I mean, let's say that one person comes in at, 250,000, the other one comes in at 300,000. The guy at 250, when we actually ask for bids, could come in at 400,000 to try to
But
preempt that.
You're talking about a property that might be developed and might not be developed. There could be radically different submittals or approaches to that proposition. We're not stuck with a naked competitive bid mechanism, and I would not encourage falling back to that.
All right, but is this a two-step? Let's say that we get these requests for proposals, and we find out what they want to do, and we think, okay, both of these things are pretty good. Then do we go out for actual bids?
No.
We
You negotiated, if the majority vote of the board was to accept a proposal, it would be subject to negotiation of any number of terms. We're looking for the planned development of the property.
So we're not limited by the amount that they quote in
No,
the.
not at all. In
Okay.
fact, it would only be one factor to be considered.
And
You
this,
have totally unlimited discretion to reject any and all bids. So I wouldn't worry about what they might look like. I would give people an opportunity to show and tell what their vision of developing the property.
Well, like I said, I don't have any problem with the concept. I was just concerned about if we throw the money in there, then somebody that bid 500,000 and somebody that bid 250, and we like the proposal for 250, and then we get into a shouting match as to,
You would not be bound.
okay, it's going to pass the smell test there. Okay.
Steve, good enough. May I ask a question? Sure. Mr. Pearl, previously, we have dealt with real estate in an executive session for various reasons. If I were, and I'm not, but if I were one of these parties that would be interested in producing an RFP, I believe that I would feel better if those RFPs were done in confidence, at least to a certain point, rather than to be displayed in a public forum right off the bat.
Oh, I don't take no exception with that. In fact, I would think that that would be the method. The proposals would be sealed and submitted to the recorder as in a competitive bidding arrangement, under seal and open at the same time.
You don't want people stealing somebody's concept.
No,
Well, and I would think also that it might actually inhibit some creativity and, and some really interested parties if we don't have some type of guarantee of some kind of confidentiality until a certain point.
the proposals would be submitted under seal within the time of the advertisement to be opened only by the recorder and at the same time. So there would not be an opportunity for poaching the other interested parties' application.
Okay, my suggestion is just to make that abundantly clear in any RFP that we put out, that they're totally sealed, all opened at one time.
That's a standard term and condition in our bidding process.
Well, I understand, but this is not a bid for an article that we're going to go purchase. This is an investment. This is a plan. This is a lot of different things rolled into one.
It is.
And I think it needs to be handled very uniquely because it is a very unique situation.
And that's the reason for the recommendation of using the RFP mechanism as opposed to just a competitive bid for a number of dollars with no constraints on what happens after the fact of the purchase.
But what you're saying is in the actual request that goes in the paper, it'd be nice if it made it clear there that these bids would be not open to the public.
Yes,
right
sir.
away.
At the minimum, and I mean, I know that we have a sunshine law and all that, but I'm just wondering the impact of let's like we're just as we did with the Water and Sewer Committee, we're going to buy a Skag lawnmower. Well, there's no big surprise. The low bidder gets that, but this is different. This is multifaceted. It's not just one, it's just not one piece. So I have a problem saying that we're just going to open them all and read them all out loud, because I think that we may have to, as a committee, we may have to, or however the legalities surround this, that we may have to take these individuals and vet them out and get more information in order to present it in a better fashion rather than just tearing them open.
Absolutely. That's why it's called a request for proposals. The proposals don't have to be carbon copies of each other. They may be radically different. That's why you use the RFP process.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is the opening of those proposals might need to be done in a format that allows a little bit more discretion between the people that submit the RFPs. If I were there, I wouldn't want to sit in a room with 10 other people and every one of them hear my ideas and then run back and find a way to put a spin on theirs to tear me down. It seems to me that if we just open the proposals and then we have to go in and further investigate every proposal, we're going to have to go back to these people for further information. And if everyone is in the room when the proposals are opened, they're going to have information about their competitors.
Yes.
And that's the part of it that I would like to keep confidential until the board or the committee, however this goes out, until everyone here finds that we have enough information to then discuss it in public.
Well, I think you're going to have public discussion of proposals that are submitted however and whenever they're open, you're going to have a determination by the board as to what the proposal is, an understanding of the proposal, the terms of the proposal, because again, they may be radically different. You're going to have a public airing of the proposals. You will not be able to do that in a closed meeting.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is that I can imagine if I was going to do it, it would be multifaceted. I mean, it would be a lot.
Yes,
So, and every person that would be an interested party there would probably have a similar presentation. So what you're going to read in a public meeting, let's say that this is a 1 hour or 2 hour committee meeting, whatever we end up having, we might not be able to get through all of them in that allotted time. I just think that we really need to think about how we do this, how we open them, because it's not going to be so black and white when it comes in, because they're going to have a lot of nuances.
I totally agree with you.
And opening two, and then having to go back to people outside session and have RFIs to each person. If all those people are privy to everybody else's RFP, when they get the RFIs, they're going to already know what this guy over here has. And so they're going to be looking to spin it. It would seem to me, and again, you're the attorney, I don't know the legalities of it, but what I'm saying is it would seem to be more fair to the people submitting an RFP if the RFPs were reviewed in a setting that wasn't a public meeting. And then we generate a list of RFIs to go to each one. We compile that, and then we have our public meeting. That way we have the ability to vet each RFP and understand the nuances of each, because it's going to be very complicated. I don't see this being very simple. I see this being very complicated.
I would agree with that as well, but I don't see an alternative, and I'm
Okay.
not aware of a mechanism. I can certainly run your concern by the Public Records Council in Nashville to see if there is a mechanism where consideration might be given to proposals outside the public view. I'm not optimistic about that answer.
Well, it would just be to generate a request for information to go back to the people that submitted the RFPs, because it's probably not going to be all encompassing.
I see where you're coming from. I understand the proposition.
Okay.
I'm just not sure.
You mentioned executive session when we dealt with other real estate purchases. I mean, is that not an option here?
Well, it's a different sort of thing. We were in that matter proceeded under threat of litigation, i.e. condemnation litigation being filed by the state of Tennessee, unless we elected to exercise the option of acquiring the property and donating it to DOT. So that's a horse of a different color. I'm not offended by the proposition that these proposals are going to be reviewed in the public eye. I don't think the two parties that I'm aware of who articulated genuine interest in this development of this property, I think will expect there to be a competitive dialogue about the validity of their idea as opposed to another idea. I think there are going to be different ideas proposed unless we make it impossible for a proposal to be made. That's more my concern than the mechanics or the process of discussing the bids and considering the map open. And you may have something to say about this.
Not necessarily want to add, but I understand where it's coming from. I am curious if we can do it to a certain point.
And I want to make sure this is not to withhold any information from anybody. It's to maintain the integrity of the RFPs until we have not only fully vetted them, but until we fully understand them. Because it's not a purchase where we're going to bid against this guy versus that guy. It's not a money. It's a multifaceted approach. And this guy may have strong A's, but weak B's. And this guy could have he could have strong B's and weak A's. And we're going to have to get some information to further ferret that out. And I just don't think in a competitive situation, if we put everybody's cards on the table together with all of them in the same room, that they're going to get a fair shake. Personally, that's just my personal opinion.
I tend to agree with you in that it seems like that we could keep it under wraps, but we're going to eventually have to talk about it in the public. I understand that.
I have
But
absolutely no
I know
problem
what
with
you're
that.
saying. You just want to get all the details.
Yes, sir.
All the questions that you're going to ask before you do that, after you see the proposals.
Yes, sir. I potentially see if we have 2 or 3 or 4 people, that it would take several hours and probably several iterations of requests for information to fully understand everyone's proposal, because that is not going to be a small feat over there at all. I mean, maybe I'm overthinking it, but I just see that being a little bit more than we're going to be able to do in a 15 or 20-minute committee meeting.
Well, that would be, of course, a next step, because at this juncture, we're simply inviting proposals. It will be up to the person with interest to determine what amount of detail to provide in their particular proposal. And I can't second guess what that might be. I won't pretend to be able to frame it up and put parameters on it. That's why the idea was to keep it as generic as possible.
I understand. I just want us to go into it with eyes wide open that
Yeah, I agree.
that may be that may be an unintended consequence of the RFP situation. And I agree, it's probably the best way to do it, but I think that might be a little can of worms we have to ferret out
I
here.
mean, I'll be
And
honest.
there may be.
I'll be honest, I just assumed there would be some point where we did exactly what you're talking about without it being in a meeting like this, but we never talked about that. So I just kind of what I had on my mind.
I'm thinking back to a case in Tennessee against the city of Maryville, which negotiated in private without public notice the disposition of a building. They were transacting to buy or sell a building within the corporate limits. I think it was an abandoned bank building, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember the ruling in the case was that Maryville had not complied with the Sunshine Law by negotiating the transaction outside the public view. They remedied it and the court ratified the transaction in the final analysis, but they did cry foul on public notice. But let me deal with that as
I understand.
as an adjunct issue between now and the next board meeting. But I would encourage you to consider advertising a request for proposals generically and work out the details and how the proposals will be weighed and considered in a legal and appropriate format.
Yeah.
Again, we're not haggling over price or anything. We just want to get more information. I mean, I understand where you're coming from with the Maryville case, but you know, they were actually negotiating in secret. We're not negotiating. We're just looking at things.
We seek to understand is full, we seek to fully understand. I mean, we don't even know. It could be,
Fact
you know,
finding.
I'm going to put a skate park in, I'm going to pay 850,000. It could be that simple. I kind of doubt it. But it could be that simple. I just didn't want us to just stumble on and say, okay, yeah, oh, that sounds great. And then end up, you know, with a problem we haven't thought
Well, again,
about.
in the final analysis, it's always the majority vote of the board
I understand.
to accept or reject any and all bids. So you're not going to have your hands tied in your consideration of whatever the proposals are. I think I've said as much as I can say from an informed position, because we're really speculating about what might be presented and how it might be presented. We're not going to know until you test the water.
That's
But
right.
you have 2 fish that are in the water that are rising to the bait. I wouldn't shelve the idea because of concerns about not having all the answers to the process.
Okay.
Just a suggestion.
One other thing I want to ask about, there's 2 pieces of property there. One lot's 4.5 acres, 4 3/4, and the other one's about 1 acre. How do we handle that in this request?
It needs to be identified as a request for proposals for development of the blue building property consisting of 5.238 acres on West Caldwell Street or whatever.
So you're saying lump them together
Yes.
in the proposal, don't keep them, I mean, don't make it an option that you could.
We're not defining options. We're
So-
not.
What I'm getting at, if someone was interested in only buying the smaller portion, or would they be able to?
The proposal process is does not have limitations as far as I'm concerned.
I just see a situation,
Planned unit development.
but if they're grouped together, I mean, if whoever's interested in the majority of the property and they're both together, that seemed like that kind of eliminates someone from being interested in the 1 acre tract.
And it might. I can't speculate about that.
Could we not simply list the fact that there's two parcels consisting, this property consists of two parcels? Could be taken together or separately. I would assume we could
Yeah.
just add that note in there and that's it.
It really doesn't make any difference if it's one parcel or two. It's all the blue building. It's one, I mean,
Sure.
Well, that would be in the proposal if they wanted one piece or two or all of it, I guess.
Absolutely, that is the point. Leave it wide open and let them tell the board what it is that they would like to do with the property and what it's worth to them, or in other words, what they would pay for the right to do that. Well, let me invite David Baird, our new community development director, who has extensive experience as a consultant, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so Nolan was going to introduce me, but I guess I'm getting introduced a little bit early. So on this issue, I have seen a number of cities that have done this request for proposal concept. One option could be to have that submittal come to our department. And then we kind of look over things first. That may be a way of, instead of opening the sealed in this meeting, that might give some information at first. That would be an option. I'm also happy to review the detailed process of the cities that I know have done something similar to this, and then come back to this committee and discuss, some findings about that. Obviously, if it is in the state of Tennessee, it's for legal reasons much better. I don't know of any in the state of Tennessee offhand, but that's not to say there aren't any. This is a mechanism that we're seeing more of a national trend towards doing as a means of not just accepting the first bidder or the low bidder, but the bidder that meets what the city actually desires in the property, with it being a historic property or a property that people feel passionate about in the community. So that would be, an option that we can do some research. That'd be the first thing. And then the second item would be, I would think that there might be a mechanism for us in our department to accept it and do some review prior to that being opened in the general format. And I'd be happy to work with Tim to see what the legal avenues are to make that work.
you would have to review it anyway to see if the proposal was even consistent with
That's right.
zoning laws, that type
That's,
of thing.
that's my thought, is that we would have to do that anyway. When you submit an RFP for just a plan or rewriting a zoning ordinance, the department similar to our department would take that, review it, and then maybe even have an interview and then make a recommendation for the board. And that would not be in a public session. So I'm thinking that there might be an avenue there to gain a little more information before we had it in a session like this, if that makes sense.
Director Baird, I've got a question for you in regards to the comment that Mr. Harvey was making. It would seem to me that there might be a potential that if it's open-ended, the request for proposal is open-ended, and we have one entity that is looking at using 3 acres and another entity is looking at 2, we could possibly have 2 parties being involved in this project and not just one. Is that a
absolutely.
fair assessment?
Yeah, I think in the RFP, you would state something to the effect of, please, and I'm paraphrasing here, but please state your vision for either or property. Make it clear what your vision is for, if it's only for the small one, or if it's only for the large one, or if it's for both, and give those 3 options. Then if someone comes in and they you like the larger properties division, and then a second party comes in, you like the smaller properties division, then you could split those. And I think we could write the RFP to allow that as an option. You know? So,
Okay.
yeah, I've been responding to RFPs for the last 7 years, so I'm pretty adept at the RFP process from the other side of things. So I'm happy to do some research in that RFP in that specific area, come back to the board and present it, and then work with Tim on creating an avenue where we're opening that, which could create maybe some intro information so that it's little, once it comes to this committee, it's more of the answer, more of the questions have been answered. And, you know, it's in a format that, you know, the public can engage a little bit more, I think.
And I don't know that the request needs to come back to us. I mean, you guys know what we're wanting it to say.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that needs to necessarily come back and be approved by us, as long as, you know.
I just think that it needs to be incredibly clear. The process needs to be delineated in such a way that the people that would be interested in this have a high degree of confidence that there's no home cooking behind the scenes.
Right.
That is of paramount importance to me. That way, if we have someone from in town versus someone from out of town, the out of town guy's an unsuccessful bidder. You know, we just want it as clean as possible. And we want everybody to know that both hands are on the table. Everything is straight up. And we got to maintain the integrity of that.
Yeah.
I mean, beyond reproach, it has
Yeah.
to be totally
Yeah, I think the
transparent.
best way, or best way to my knowledge to do that is to have some selection criteria that states, you know, what you're looking for and, you know, how that will be selected. And so, you know, that is something that, you know, Nolan and I and Tim can work towards. And if you guys want to see that selection criteria, usually a board such as this would like to see that selection criteria before we would send that out. So we're happy to do it that way, if that's how you decide.
I don't really care about what our vision is what their vision is.
Right.
For the thing. You know, there's both sides that one person wants to, you know, tear it down. The other side wants to keep it. And, you know, I'd like to see what somebody with money in their pocket
Right.
vision is.
Well, when I say selection criteria, it's not so much what the city's vision is, but how it will be graded. You know, it'll be the process that it goes through, you know, how, you know, sometimes like a objective point scoring as far as, you know, and so that they know here's the first step in the process, there's the second step in the process, there's the third step in the process, and then we stick to that. In my experience, that's the best way to make it clear that we followed a process, and then, as you say, there's no home cooking kind of.
Yeah,
you know.
The three things that I see out of this is, number one, what has the most benefit for the city?
Yeah.
From a standpoint, not monetary, but a benefit, whatever it may be, from housing or recreation or whatever it might be. Second of all is the price that somebody might be willing to pay. And third of all, does it go on the tax rolls? Those three things are the things that I'd look for in the proposal. You know, does it fit in with our vision of what downtown should be?
Okay, now that is definitely what we're looking for as far as selection criteria concept. So if any other alderman or the mayor has anything else to add to that discussion, that would be very helpful information to creating this RFP. Any other key thing that you want for them to show you how they would achieve that? How
Yeah,
they
I
would
mean,
achieve that benefit.
if somebody wants to do this as a nonprofit, that's going to end up being no tax money down the road.
Right. Yeah.
Regardless of how much money they want to give us up front. As
Right.
I look at the upfront money, that's a one-time shot. The tax money goes on forever.
Yeah.
And I'd be more disposed to deal with someone who puts it on the tax rolls than I would a nonprofit, frankly. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Right.
And I guess the fact that whether the building is gonna stay or not stay is. in there
That's going to
somewhere.
appeal to.
Yeah, the restoration of the building, that could be a certain amount of objective points that, if you're able to actually restore the building instead of, or, totally changing the use or even having to knock down part of the building, that gets you a lot of points, so to speak, or that creates more chance of you being selected.
Time frame is also another for completion of
Yeah.
the project.
There you go, time frame. That's a good one.
It would seem to me that maybe we need to have a separate committee meeting to discuss this. What do you think? And not wait till the next board meeting, maybe call one in a week or something and get together to help these gentlemen have more access to us and our thought process than just tonight.
I think what we're aiming to do tonight is get the request out there. And I think a lot of this, how we're gonna weigh all these factors after the proposals are in can be determined between now and then. But to me, the goal right now is to get the RFP out.
Is there, well, what I will say is someone who has responded to RFPs, I will look at that selection process and try to spell out how I meet it, and so I think that it would be easier and for the applicant to have that criteria there. Now, it depends on the timeline though. If people are really heavy and want to submit this now, then yeah, we can do the selection criteria at a later date. Maybe they can do an initial submittal and then we can send out the selection criteria after that.
I don't want to limit their proposals to just preserving the blue building. If they've got a great proposal that needs tearing it down, we got to consider that too.
Right, exactly.
Well, we were talking in terms of development of the Blue Belt property. That's pretty broad. That's a broad term.
Okay. I just don't want to limit it to
I understand.
restoration only.
No, no one's attempting to do that.
Right.
No.
Okay.
So yeah, we can do the selection criteria later. I'm happy to come back next week and as Mr. Harvey, as Stacy Harvey stated, or we can go ahead and get just an announcement out. I don't know. I guess that's really the key issue that remains to figure out.
Is it possible to advertise our intent for RFPs and then give them, this is our intent, and on this day, we're going to advertise for RFPs, and then we're going to we're going to accept them until such date. That way people could get working.
Yeah.
That way they would know what was going on, and then we have our selection criteria in their interim if we give us enough time. That way they see movement, and then we have a date certain, we're going to start accepting them. And then when we advertise for the RFP, we put the selection criteria out with it.
Yeah.
That way everybody knows it's coming.
I personally think that's a good idea.
I defer to his experience.
I think having the selection criteria created before the proposals actually come in will help with your concern, which was, I don't want someone to make an argument that they submitted and then we created the selection criteria, because someone could say like, well, here's what I submitted, and someone went behind the scenes and said, well, yours fits more to this. I think having that up front helps from a perception and a legal standpoint in my experience. So I think letting people know that it's out there, it's coming, they can get moving. But then, we're going to send the selection criteria later. I think, and that's in my experience, that makes the most sense.
And I wasn't talking about setting up those criteria after the proposals came in. I was just talking about in the meantime while.
Yeah.
But, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I think that's good. Obviously when people are interested, we want to get some news out so they can start working. And by And if I were on this side, writing this, submitting this RFP, yeah, that extra time is helpful. Because now I can start, gathering things and then I can tailor it once the selection criteria.
So would it be appropriate to, in this committee meeting, to make a motion that we advertise our intent
Yeah,
intent to solicit RFPs for the redevelopment of blah, 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 blah,
mhm.
and then advertise the date certain that we will start accepting them? And then when that will close, just as a preliminary, hey, this is going to happen, get your ducks in a row. And then on this day, we're going to accept them. And in the interim, if we give ourselves 15, 30 days, whatever, we can get everything worked out.
Yeah.
And then they're working on their piece, we're working on our piece. They don't submit until they get our final selection criteria, then they submit and everything's above board.
Yeah, I think that makes absolute sense to me.
If you can write that down, Shirley, I would make that motion. I would make that motion to this committee that's how we move forward.
Yeah.
So we got 2 steps. What's the time frame? What is the time? Is that going to be a 2 10-day processes?
I wouldn't think 10 days would be long enough for somebody to come up with a total proposal about.
Well,
But I'll say I've talked to 2 people about that and they both were fine with it.
Yeah, but there may be other people that want to.
yeah.
There may be, but we haven't, we don't know who they are.
Well, I would suggest that we look at a 14-day posting of intent and then a 30-day window of acceptance.
I'll make
So
that motion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Yeah. I think the
I'll
main
second that
thing,
motion.
Okay.
I think if 14 days from now, I can work with Nolan to get, you've already given me some guidance on what you want the selection process to be, the criteria to be. If you have any additional ones, please contact myself or Nolan, and we'll add that in. But this is something that I can get working on tomorrow as far as going through and crafting, the language for this.
I think we could do that in a shorter time. I think 10 days is enough for the intent and 14 for the proposals. I mean, they're not submitting drawings. They're giving us their ideas of what they want to do and how much they're willing to pay for it.
Well, the one thing I will say on that, Steve, and I call Steve and Stacy, just so I'm not Mr. Harvey, and people don't know who I'm referring to, is you may find that there's some additional party out there that once this is advertised, and it might be in Nashville, or it might be somewhere that really specializes in this type of development, and they might be really interested in it. Maybe that's not the case. I will say in my experience, working in Texas, there was a certain type of developers that would only do like new downtowns. Whenever they'd see an RFP come out for it, and they would really move to that. Now, I don't know if there's a market for that in Tennessee for this type of historic building. I really don't know. But I can see once someone sees the RFP, they may become interested. So I'll just throw that out.
So are you saying that maybe that time frame needs to be extended, or you think that's adequate? I mean, are you?
I think the time frame you came up with originally is an adequate time frame
that gives a larger party more time to
Yeah.
get their wheels moving.
Exactly. And it may be that we only have 2 submittals, but I can see that there could be a group, out of a larger city such as Nashville that gets wind of this and gets excited about it. And I wouldn't want to have to extend that date when we've already submitted it if they came to you and said that they were interested.
We've waited 15 years. I don't think.
Well,
If you look at the next meeting on the 28th, so if you want one more meeting to verify the criteria, finalize the proposal, you would say we have to formally request the proposal 29th of September, and then you could go to the 11th or the 25th of October for the submission date, and then review them at the board meeting, that next board meeting.
We got a motion on the floor, don't we?
So where does that put us? At the end, when submissions are due?
Just shy of 1 month of 30 days, it'd be the 25th of October.
Yeah, I would think that 30 days after the original would be the
So
ideal.
you would put it on the 29th of October, that Wednesday, the day after the board meeting, and then the day before the final meeting in October would be the 25th.
And so what you're saying, Mr. Sutton, is that the next 2 weeks from now, we would have the criteria, we would have the RFP ready to be released. And then you guys would take it and basically give us the thumbs up, and we would release it to where local paper. I have a couple other ideas as to where that could be released potentially. And then after that, we give it the month's time frame, and then our department would then initially open that up, ask for any additional information we can, and then at that point, get as much information as we can before a public disclosure, I guess you'd say. Does that make sense, sir?
I don't see any way that we could really do a good job before the end of October. That later
Yeah, I
date in
agree.
October it's going to come fast.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that month is.
So I believe Everett made a motion to have 14-day intent to place an RFP, and then 30 days to accept the RFPs.
Just one more thing. I'm not trying to cut anybody out. I'm not trying to push this through, but there's one group that's very interested, that time is of the essence of this working out for them. And
I mean, then we're showing favoritism to one group, and I don't think that's the spirit of the deal here.
The genuine interest expressed to me from a different party than Mr. Steve was referring to, expressed the same sentiment to me with regard to their interest. We've been wrestling this bear for 10 years. We don't need to get fish in the water without having bait floating above. We need to get bait on the water.
We need to wrap up the conversation, though. It's already past 7 o'clock. It's just time for the board meeting.
We've got a motion on the floor, I thought.
Yeah.
all right, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, and I'll get with you tomorrow.
Park and Recreation Committee gonna be active.
We adjourned, Steve.
Yeah, this meeting's adjourned.
Due to time constraints, we'll have to move the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting to immediately following the full board meeting. But it is 7 o'clock. We will call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the McMinnville City Board of Mayor and Alderman. The first item on the agenda is roll call.
All the board members are present, Mayor Chastain.
Next item on the agenda is consideration of minutes. Each member of the board should have received those in their agenda packet. If there be no requests for additions, corrections, or deletions, I'll entertain a motion to dispense with those as read.
Move to approve. So moved.
Oh, I have a motion from Miss Sally Brock,
Second.
second from Mr. Everett Brock. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is recognition of visitors. If any member of the audience wishes to address the board, please step to the podium and state your name for the record. Seeing none, item 4 on the agenda is recognition of employees. We have several department heads here this evening. If any department head wishes to recognize an employee, please step forward. Mr.
I
Mayor.
have one. I would like to introduce David Baird. I think we may have done this in reverse. So-
I'll make it real quick, but I just wanted to say, thank you for your confidence in me and making your decision to hire me for this position. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to the job. And And so I did want to mention, one of the things that we're going to be working on internally in the department is there's a recommendation from the comprehensive plan that was done with the city and the county in 2018. And that action item is update land use controls to ensure that they are not so restrictive as to discourage development. And so I think that's something that we can do an analysis on in-house. And I'm looking forward to doing that, because I think that'll show really where the gaps are and where there's some things that we can really change for the better. So we are going to be working on that internally when we get a chance. I was going to tell people it was going to be starting tomorrow, but I will start on the blue building tomorrow, and then we will shift that backwards. But that is something that in my previous life as a consultant, I did a lot of. And so I'm looking forward to getting into your zoning code and other land development regulations to see where we can improve those. So with that, I've spoken more than I expected to tonight. So I'm going to turn it back.
Just a few things about David. David is an accomplished planner and attorney who's returning to employment with our city after about 13 years. During March of 2007 through November of 2008, he was employed as our city's community planner. During his time away from the city, he has become a licensed attorney in the state of Tennessee, worked for an urban planning consultant firm that specializes in rewriting local government land development regulations, and worked for the city of Chattanooga. David's unique background and his familiarity with our community make him a natural fit for his hire as Director of Community Development. As many of you already know, David restarted his employment with us on Wednesday, September 1st. And obviously tonight is his first meeting with us. So welcome, David.
Yeah,
Good to
thank you
have you
very
here.
much. I think it's day 9. So getting familiar, re-familiar, I guess you'd say, with everything. And so far, everything's going good, and look forward to working with everybody. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 5, communications. Item 5A is the announcement of the cancellation of the McMinnville Autumn Street Fair. Last Wednesday, leadership McMinnville met and had an extensive conversation about this and about the state of things involving COVID-19, and they took a class vote. And I believe the vote was 15-2 in favor of canceling the event. So I was contacted by the leadership president, and I just asked to make a formal announcement tonight that that will not be occurring on October 2nd as planned. Item 5B.
Just one more thing about that. I understand that there is a group that is going to have one at the fairground.
That's correct. I believe there is an independent group that has organized something that's going to be, I believe it's like 9 in the morning till 6 in the evening at the fairgrounds on October 2nd in its place.
What group is that? Do you have any idea?
I don't have any idea. Item 5B is a letter that came in after the agenda packets went out from Clark George and Amy Ware from Warren County High School regarding the Warren County High School 2021 Homecoming Parade. This is scheduled to be October 15th, and they are requesting the closure of West Colville Street from 12:15 p.m. until the end of the parade. They plan to line up at 12:30. And then at 1:30, the parade will take them past the Tire Mart on Main Street and then end down at the Farmers Market. Chief Mosley, have they been in contact with you about this? And no problems or anything? Okay. Hearing none of those, I will entertain a motion to approve the letter from Mr. George and Ms. Ware for the road closure for the homecoming parade.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Sutton. Second by Ms. Kirby. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 5C is another letter that came in after the agenda packets went out from Ashley Wright. She is the board secretary for the McMinnville Young Professionals Association, and they are looking to have a luncheon at Ramsey Park on Thursday, September 23rd, and are requesting the fees for that rental or reservation to be waived. McMinnville Young Professionals is a nonprofit organization that does several charities throughout the year and are having a guest speaker. They typically have a meeting once a month where they have lunch and have a speaker, and they say, in light of escalating COVID cases in our community, they are looking for an outside venue, and again, just ask that we waive the fees. Mr. McCord, have they been in touch with you about this, or Justin? Okay. Should there be any issues with waiving this fee for a nonprofit organization? All right. Well, I'll entertain a motion to approve the letter from McMinnville Young Professionals.
So moved.
A motion by Miss Sally Brock
I'll second it.
and a second by Miss Rachel Kirby. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Item 6 is petitions. There are none. Item 7 is unfinished business, and item 7A is the approval of the $40,000 nonprofit appropriation to Main Street, McMinnville.
As you know, in committee, last meeting, we did vote, Finance Committee voted unanimously to go ahead and approve the donation for Main Street McMinnville. And the only stipulation was that we're going to release that money on a quarterly basis. And that was acceptable to the Main Street people. I think Raven is here today if anybody's got any questions about that. Also, if we approve it tonight, it will be included in the ordinance for our nonprofits. I think it's ordinance 1822. So again, if you've got any questions for Raven, now's the time to ask them. Okay, I guess if not, we'll entertain a motion to add that to the nonprofit.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Harvey,
I'll second it.
second by Ms. Rachel Kirby. Do we have to roll call? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 7B is just an update on COVID precautions and updates. A couple of weeks ago, I made the executive decision to close down all of the city properties to the public. Here at City Hall, that has just not worked out due to the volume of inquiries and the traffic that we've had at the walk-up window. It was just not feasible to keep the lobby closed. Here on this floor, we have all of the teller booths are encased in glass. All of our employees are wearing masks. Up on the second floor in the Codes and Community Development Department, the employees are behind glass. And on the third floor at the Police Department window, everyone is behind glass. So given those precautions, they're in place. And again, the fact that our employees are wearing masks, I mean, we really didn't have a choice based on the numbers that we were seeing to keep the lobby closed. Does anybody have any feedback, input on that, Mr. Main?
I don't have any.
Okay. All right, item 8 is new business. Does any member of the board wish to discuss new business this evening?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. The Safety Committee met today and reviewed and approved a request by Chief Mosley. And this request was to the board. There's a time aspect to this request. And it's for the approval or replacement contract for the existing software license using data sharing platform currently with Emergent Tech to be replaced by Central Square.
So typically, due to public notice, that would have to wait for the next meeting. I mean, there's always the option of suspending the rules in that regard, but that's typically reserved for emergencies. I mean, is time of the essence on getting this passed through?
It is, to the extent that 911, as you heard earlier, is going live October 1.
Okay,
Unless we're able to go live with them, it'll disrupt. process.
Well, having said that, then I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules regarding public notice so that we can take action on this item this evening.
So moved.
I have a motion by Miss Sally Brock,
Second.
second by Mr. Stacy Harvey. All in favor? Aye. That motion passes. So now I will entertain a motion to take action on this item.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey,
Second.
second by Miss Sally Brock.
No, yes, they need to authorize you to sign that contract.
Okay. So we have a motion on the table to approve this item and to give me authorization to sign the new updated contract with the new company. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
I
Mr.
had-
Brock?
Yeah, I had one. I noticed that the brick wall down behind Hoover and Son is falling in again, where the Boy Scouts had put it back together. Could Nolan or somebody contact the Boy Scouts and see if they're interested in redoing that thing? The whole thing's gonna fall, I'm afraid. Most of the brick are just laying on the ground out there.
Yeah, I was thinking that might be Hoover and Sons property, but
Okay.
I think it's the city's property. It's what we determined that it's the city's property. I think that when they did the wall, they gave it to the city.
okay.
But Tim, I don't know if you remember.
That's correct.
Yeah.
It was done with the city's blessing as an Eagle Scout project. So I don't know if the Boy Scouts were standing behind it. It was super the Boy Scout.
Yeah, I'm sure the Boy Scout now has graduated from college and
And I think the
gainfully
Boy Scouts
employed.
are in bankruptcy, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they're interested in doing anything or if not, maybe we might, it probably wouldn't take a whole lot of time to clean the bricks and reestablish them, maybe support that wall a little bit better than what it is. So,
Yeah, I'll absolutely get on that. Yep.
okay. That's.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Purtle, you and I talked about the possibility of sending the recommendation for the RFPs onto the full board tonight. And we recommended it, but do we still need to do that? Does that even help anything?
You have that option. I think there's a timetable generally articulated if I was listening.
Does it have to go before the whole board since there's no money involved here?
I'm not sure it has to go before the whole board at this juncture in order to start the process that David described and recommended to us.
So it's not necessary then?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Start right now.
Any other member of the board have new business this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 9, resolutions. There are none. Item 10 is ordinances. Item 10A is ordinance number 1820, an ordinance of the city of McMinnville to amend chapter 5 of title 14 of the official zoning code of the city of McMinnville, which is the official zoning code of the city of McMinnville, to add a provision for the use of beauty salons and barber shops in the high density residential district as a special exception use, and to set the date when this ordinance shall become effective. This is the second and final reading. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey,
Second.
second by Mr. Everett Brock. Any discussion on the matter? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Everett Brock,
Aye.
Sally Brock. Yes. Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Jack Sutton,
Yes.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 10B is ordinance number 1821, an ordinance of the city of McMinnville, Tennessee to change the zoning classification of a property located at 623 and 625 North Spring Street from R2 medium density residential to R3 high density residential, and to express the time when this ordinance is to become effective. This is the second and final reading. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A motion by Ms. Sally Brock,
Second.
second by Ms. Rachel Kirby. Any discussion on the matter? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
I just, again, I I love what these guys are trying to do, but I think this is a precedent I'm not quite ready to support with the fact that we've turned other people down for this exact same request in the past. It seems like spot zoning to me.
I'm with Mr. Harvey on this. There is approximately 40 or 50 feet between this property and the high density. And I mentioned last meeting that if those two adjoining properties, this measurement, it wouldn't be in my opinion, spot zoning, but the way it is, technically, it appears to be that way.
Any other discussion?
Well, I was going to say, I expected, there was some discussion to be expected on this point because of the points that you raised. So, yes.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Everett Brock,
All right.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
No,
Zach Sutton,
No.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Ordinance 10C is ordinance number 1822, an ordinance to the city of McMinnville to appropriate funds to certain nonprofit charitable organizations and certain nonprofit civic organizations to promote civic betterment, social improvements, and the health and general welfare of the residents of the city of McMinnville, and to promote the economic welfare of the city of McMinnville and its residents for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022 in the aggregate amount of $444,613, and to provide the conditions under which the appropriations are made and to express the time when the ordinance becomes effective. This is the first reading. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Everett Brock,
Second.
second by Ms. Rachel Kirby. Any discussion on the matter?
Surely this does include the 40,000
Yes,
for Main Street.
yes.
Okay. Thought so.
We'll call for the vote.
Everett Brock,
Aye.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
yes,
Zach Sutton,
Yes.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 10D is ordinance number 1823, an ordinance of the city of McMinnville to amend section 101 of chapter 1 of title 17 of the municipal code of the city of McMinnville, which outlines refuse definitions, and to amend chapter 1 title 17 of the municipal code of McMinnville, Tennessee, to add section 17-126, which outlines special considerations, and to set the date that this ordinance shall become effective. This is the first reading. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey,
Second.
second by Miss Sally Brock. Discussion on the matter. Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Everett Brock,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
yes,
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Zach Sutton,
Yes.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 11 is departmental reports. We have several department heads and directors here this evening. If anyone wishes to address the board, please come forward. Chair recognizes Scott McCord of Parks and Rec.
Not reporting on anything, but wanted to ask and get your guidance. This is the time that we start registering for youth basketball. I have no doubt in my mind, my staff can do it. So I just want to see how y'all feel about indoor basketball.
What's the school system doing with the same situation? What have they established for fall sports?
I have not heard anything.
And they're still having football games. I know they canceled the first two due to,
They played Friday night
yeah.
football.
But I
I haven't
mean
heard anything about
specifically basketball, volleyball, indoor sports. that
I'd
come
have
so
I'd have to get with Superintendent Swallows and ask him
I think they canceled those two football games because they had COVID cases
on the football
teams.
team.
It wasn't, they were concerned about fans or that
Yeah.
type
Yeah,
of.
this is inside.
When do practices start?
When would your registration and practices begin, Scott?
Registration would start now.
The practices?
Practices probably, we're looking October.
What are the,
First middle.
what are the age groups? What's the
It
age?
goes all the way from, we don't do 6. The younger is done by a different group. I'm not gonna say we can do it without any hiccups, but we will put our best foot forward.
I mean, the rec center's already open. I mean, I would like to keep as much stuff going as we can safely and feasibly.
I'd start it, you know, you can always back off, I guess, like you have on some of the other.
I know refunding
Is
is a hassle, but I mean, there's a fair amount of time between now and then. You can always call it off later.
I mean, we were gonna pull it off last year if we had a court to play on.
I mean, hopefully by then, maybe the numbers will start to go down and we won't be in such trauma.
I mean, right now we got 260, 270 in baseball and 380 in soccer. So we're seeing good numbers in youth sports.
I just say go ahead and start registration if that's okay with the rest of the board.
I concur.
I think so too.
I have no problem. We'll get it started. Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you.
one of the things, you're closed down for a few days, but that's not for COVID, it's for air conditioning repair or something like that.
No, that's the new transformer being put in.
Okay, transform, all right.
Mhm.
What are those days?
Tomorrow and through Monday or something.
For the transformer?
Starting tomorrow.
Okay.
Any other department head wish to address the board, Mr. Ming?
Mr. Southard couldn't be here tonight, but he wanted everyone to know that the landfill vents have been re-drilled out at the landfill. That was completed late last week, early this week. So that's been done. And I guess I had a question kind of in line with Mr. McCord. We've talked about having the sip and savor here and serving non-alcoholic drinks out of here in the lobby. Do we want to continue with that plan?
I mean, I don't.
Is it in April? When is that?
No, it's in
End of
September.
September.
Oh, it's in September.
Yes.
If
It's
I
at
might
the-
just,
At the end of this month.
if I might just offer something, last week I had to take my dad to the Mayo Clinic. When I went in July, it was screening, temperature screenings, verbal screenings. They basically asked me if I'd been around anyone exposed in the last 14 days and if I had been tested for COVID in the last 14 days. And after that, full admittance to the entire campus. So I don't see any reason that we would have to do anything beyond what the Mayo Clinic does, would you?
I mean, what kind of employees are you looking to have here that evening?
Not many. I'll be here, being the bartender. You all are welcome to come. Really not many employees at all. I would guess,
It's just
3
a
to
matter
4.
of showing off the place, huh?
yeah, we just thought it would be a good way to keep this corner open. I think during sip and savor, sometimes this corner is kind of dead. So we've got a lot of space in here. We could have several pieces of art in here and serve non-alcoholic
I mean,
drinks.
as far as I know, they're still having the event, and I don't think having this lobby open is going to help or hurt anything. So I don't have an issue with it.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I agree with that.
Mr. Purtle, do you have anything this evening? Item 12 is announcements. Does any member of the board have any announcements this evening? Mr. Harvey?
I do actually. Nathaniel, would you care to come to the podium for just a second, please? I'd like to read a little bit of about an award that Nathaniel received at the recent TAUD Business Conference in Gatlinburg. Nathaniel received the Associate Member of the Year Award. Uh, And his work is for basically communities such as ours, helping maintain the water and wastewater infrastructure of communities such as ours. And his work was recognized at that conference. And I don't really believe that there was anybody else that was recognized up there that serves us in any way whatsoever. So I didn't want to let that event go by. And it's not actually me. I'm just the instrument here. She's the tool. So just so you know, Zeta put this out. So I'm going to read Nathaniel's bio here, just so everyone knows who we're working with here. Nathaniel's active within the TAUD, attending and presenting at TAUD conferences, region meetings, and is active within the Young Professionals Group. He serves rural communities as a water resources consultant with planning, design, and administration of water infrastructure projects, as well as many other areas. Many of the organizations he assists are small and financially distressed systems. He's devoted to the public health of rural communities. He's a personal goal to grow as an advocate for these small communities. He's an example of a true quality professional to utility district and cities across the state, and I concur. Thank you very much, Nathaniel, and congratulations on your award.
Well, thank you very much.
All angst goes toward her.
I knew it was either her or Ricky, so. That's right. That's absolutely right. 100%.
So thank you both, though. Thank you both.
Thank y'all.
Both of you. Thank you.
Couldn't do it without you guys. I'm glad y'all were able to make it up to the AUD. They do a lot for communities. Not saying MTS doesn't, but I feel like TAUD, particularly for water and sewer systems, goes above and beyond. So I was excited to be recognized, and thank you guys. Being from here, this recognition feels better than the recognition that I got there. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your hard work.
That was the second one I've been to. That's really an interesting
Yeah. Yes, sir, it is.
show. It really is. Yeah.
Yes. So if you ever want to go to the bigger ones, there's a National Rural Water Conference. Right now, they're actually having it in Milwaukee. It's this week, but they have some neat stuff that goes on there. So anyway, thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Nathaniel.
And just a reminder, we'll circle back around to Parks and Recreation for the committee meeting immediately following this. So if there is nothing else to come before the board, we will stand adjourned.
Want to roll straight into it? I'd like to call the Parks and Recreation meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is to consider the 3 proposed performers for the Park Theater. And Scott, do you want to walk us through those 3 acts?
These are 3 acts that Kevin negotiated. Where'd he go? That Kevin's already negotiated with. He just wanted to present this to be transparent. I think also one, did you say money is due when?
Another deposit is due tomorrow. So actually it's, they've given us a lot of leeway because we've worked with them before. So if it's approved, then we'll follow through tomorrow. But it's due soon.
So we got one comedian, 2 country artists. Kevin's been discussing possibly doing a season pass. This will allow for 6 to 7 artists on one. Hopefully we can announce that pretty soon. And we're excited. Hopefully this will bring more people to our event. Kevin's been asked to do a master plan, and he's been working on that and doing a good job. And he just wanted to let y'all know these are 3 of the bands that are coming up. And if y'all have any questions, he's here to ask.
I'm not on that committee, but I've looked over these things, about what we can make, obviously based on certain assumptions. I went through all 3 of them. The first one, it took 149 tickets to break even. On the second one is 100.
Is that, which specifically, I'm not sure.
Doug Stone.
Okay, just to kind of clarify a little bit, I have a company out of Columbia, Kathy Copley and Friends. They have already asked me to set aside 50 to 80 tickets for them. They're going to bring 1 to 2 motor coaches. So that has already been, so we're basically starting at 50 to 80 tickets.
Okay.
She's pre-selling now. We'll discuss as her numbers get closer. So we should be quite well.
Okay. On any of these, do we have a chance to back out if sales are lagging? I mean, this one may not be, I don't know.
Not if sales are lagging, but if we run into any COVID issues,
Those are
anything-
covered in the contract.
Anything that is of the force majeure
Yeah.
issue, we are allowed to
It
either
look,
reschedule or to,
Anything out of our hands.
Right.
right.
we can
Okay.
it looks
reschedule.
like they all have something in their contract saying what happens if that would take care of any COVID problems for sure.
Okay.
That we would end up rescheduling or refunding.
Okay.
It looked fine. to me.
The second one was for David Nail. And it takes about 188 tickets there to break even. I don't know if you've got any sweetheart deals coming in with that one, but
Well, if I'm not sure if you're familiar with the younger country artist, compared to what we've had in the past. I mean, he's in the 2010 area. He has one YouTube video with 80 million views on one video. So he is very, very popular. He is appearing at the Franklin Theater in October, and he is probably within about 20 tickets of being sold out of the Franklin. At that point, that switch is selling tickets for about $15 more than we are.
okay.
So his sales should be, again, very, very good.
The Jeff Allen, it takes about 200 tickets to break even there.
Yes.
You're getting closer.
Again, national comedian, he is, I just had looked at I follow about 12 to 14 comparable theaters of size and community size. And he has sold out Hopkinsville, Kentucky, the theater there for November 5th show. And he again is quite popular. So we're very excited about the performers that we have coming in the next year. They're considerably a step up from what we've had in the past. So we feel we're rolling in the right direction. Scott had mentioned, we're also, looking at trying to offer season passes to people, which is, they can buy a season pass for approximately $150. It'll get them tickets to 6 of the shows. And then, so if we're looking at selling to just 50 couples, that's $15,000 right there of our money back for just 50 couples for the first year. And then we're looking at continuing growing that each and every year. We think that that'll be a big asset to us in the future.
That's all I have.
Can you share with the committee some of the avenues of advertisement and awareness for these shows?
We always use Facebook, we do Facebook posts. As far as other advertising, I had a proposal from Marketing 360 to do additional advertising in everywhere from Chattanooga, Dayton, Murfreesboro, Shelbyville, Manchester, Tullahoma. And we've kind of just put it on the back burner for the last couple of months because we've been shut down again. But we wanted to increase our advertising. Well, all the shows, we're doing a big reveal October 1st. That's going to generate a lot of excitement for people about the shows. And then also we're going to be advertising on the local radio station, Cookville radio stations. And we're going to try to reach out to Murfreesboro if we can. At least our Facebook posts and boost will get out to those bigger areas. And we have some partners now as well. On Fire Concerts does a lot of similar concerts that we do. We now have access to their 400 person database as far as sending out emails. So we're getting into having the capability of email blasts as well.
Another thing is Kevin, which one was normally low bottom was 10,000 and we got it
Jeff
for
Allen. Jeff Allen was, his base price was 10,000. I was able to negotiate him down to 6 because he lives in Franklin. That's an all-in price, so there's no hotels, there's no food, no accommodations, all that are additional to that. To guarantee him a little bit more, if he has a big show, which he sells out all over the country. If you look up jeffallen.com, he performs everywhere from Las Vegas to Florida. But we did, if he has, so it's a $6,000 base, and for every ticket he sells over $275, we'll give him $10 of the $35 tickets. So that way it protects us a little bit more on the front end. If we only end up in the 200 to 250 range, then there is no bonus. After 275, we can get a bonus per ticket.
There a motion?
So moved.
Pardon? Are we, or do you want to do each one or all three?
Yeah. Mhm.
And typically, we had this discussion today, and typically that is in their, their capabilities
We've
of
always
doing.
been given latitude to approve the acts, but when there is a $5,000 check involved, then we can bring it before Parks and Rec committee, which is just what we wanted to do. And I don't know that any of these individual checks is over 5,000, but the total is, so we wanted out of respect. Just let you know what's going on.
Okay, so we don't need to take any action on that then.
We haven't in the past.
Thank you. Thank you for we're excited about it.
Excited that it's gonna be a great year. That's where we are now with the COVID stuff, and we're gonna get over it.
One other question, that's just from my standpoint, who invokes the force majeure section of the contract, and how is it triggered? Is it just triggered because we say that?
For example, with the having to do the T. Graham Brown and Kentucky Headhunters, we had to do them for, I think it was the third time, move them back. And I just sent them an article from the paper, and Nolan had a press release that just said that we are dealing with high COVID numbers, and they were fine. There are agents I've dealt with before. We've developed quite a relationship together, and so it's if we had to present it, that's fine. If they would present it to us again, we give them the same consideration.
Add to that, Ryle did provide documentation of
Yes, I'm
our
sorry.
status of being closed down.
Okay.
And they also can invoke it if someone dies in their family or band or something like that.
Right.
But it has to be something that's out of the hands of either one of us. If like this rain out here, we can say, hey, we had a thunderstorm. We only want to-
Okay. Well, that sounds great. Thank you. The second item on the agenda is to discuss the purchase of the tarps to cover the new upstairs flooring.
This is a budgeted item. I had Justin reach out to 5 different companies with the exact same information, from thickness to square footage to reels, and this is what we got back. The low is $9,937.88 from Putterman. It ranges all the way up to 20,000, which I'm sure you have in your packets. Putterman was the one that originally provided us with the downstairs tarp. When do you think we purchased that? When do you think we purchased that one? That was before my time, so you can see that tarp has lasted a while. 13, 14 years, and it's still going strong. And it wasn't the fault that the original floor was all torn up. So, but this will help protect the upstairs, the new walking track, the new basketball court. When we have Tennessee Nursery Association, the craft fair, they'll be setting up tables, chairs. any kind of root balls, any kind of trees. This would surely help in protecting those. I have talked to both of those, Homeland and TNA, and they both stated that they would pay a third. I have not reached out to them within the last week or so, since I think TNA had to cancel theirs. And craft fair is up in the air. But I'm sure they're more than willing next year, once the money comes in, to pay their share.
That only cost us a third of that $10,000.
Our hope is they'll reimburse us a third, which they have verbally. And I trust them at their word.
Okay.
I'd make that motion that we purchase the tarps to cover the new flooring upstairs.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any opposed? Motion carries. The third item on the agenda is to discuss naming the soccer field in honor of James Big Jim Barnes.
That would be right.
I had Rachel put this on the agenda for Parks and Recreation. For those who did not know him, James Barnes died late last year of complications related to COVID-19. He was a local nursery owner. His wife, Paula Barnes, operates Paula's Dance Academy downtown on Main Street. I had the privilege of playing with his son, Jimmy, on Warren County High School's 2001 Final Four state soccer team. And I grew up playing soccer with Jimmy and several other guys my age. Soccer in Warren County today is what it is in no small part to him. He may not have some of the name recognition as people like Ben Banerjee, but he was certainly instrumental in projects like Pistol Park, as well as youth and travel soccer, AYSO, and again, the state run that we had in the early 2000s. I've had a couple of family members of his reach out, and I've had several of Jimmy Jr. or Little Jim, as we call him, his friends reach out and ask about some way to honor him. And we do have one of the fields. Is it just one, or is there more than one?
So two still need names, right? Two.
And I guess, things came up about a plaque or a tree or something like that. But given his association to soccer in McMinnville and Warren County, I thought it would be fitting to name one of the fields after him in his honor. So I would like the board to consider naming one of the open fields after James Barnes Sr., if you all feel that's appropriate.
I think it's appropriate. Isn't there a memorial to Mr. Banerjee out there already?
It is. There is the pavilion and the play set are named after Ben Banerjee out there at Pistol Park.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful idea to commemorate his work and everything he did for soccer and the kids.
I support it.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion on that?
I'm not trying to just weigh in. Not. You do want a ribbon cutting celebration with the naming of the. Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. I don't know where I was. Motion carried.
Does that go to the board?
And we didn't vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
In times past, we have done a resolution. Different things.
Yeah. At the next meeting, we'll have a resolution to confirm that vote by the Parks and Recreation Committee.
So we finished with that. So is there any other further issues to come before this committee? Hearing none, it's adjourned.